So this is our first exercise. It is the cartoon jumble. It's to get used to layers, and it's inspired by a Chicago-based artist named Arturo Herrera, who actually mostly does stuff by hand. You can see him here. There's some good documentaries about him. He was featured on Art 21 by PBS. So what is he doing here? What does it look like? Yeah, collage. He almost looks like he's a quilter or something. He has just piles and piles of cutouts. Right. So what he likes to do a lot with his work is to use cutouts from known things, especially Disney properties, which is pretty gutsy. So can anyone recognize what Disney property this is from? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which has a very kind of definitive line quality, right? And he's done a lot with Disney and with Snow White in particular. And he's very good, as you're reading about copyright in chapter 2, he's very good at transforming the reference material so that Disney does not sue him, because Disney is the most famously litigious corporation for image rights. And they have never sued Arturo Herrera because he is clearly transforming it into something else. He's also playing with abstract expressionist aesthetics. He's kind of turning them into Jackson Pollock paintings. So he jumbles them up, right? And he does a good job of really, this is probably my favorite one, of getting rid of anything that's too much of a focal point, like the eyes or the face. So instead, we're really just appreciating the lines. And then sometimes he'll replace those lines with different colors. He'll paint over them, that kind of thing. So he does it largely by hand, and he'll do them as wall installations, like this. He'll do them as little drawings. He'll even just collage as his sketches from like coloring books and found objects. So how can we reproduce this sensibility, this type of expression, digitally? So this is what I'm going to propose. We're going to look up line art for a cartoon property that we like. Doesn't have to be Disney, but it could be. It could be Pokemon, it could be Transformers, it could be G.I. Joe, whatever. In doing that, we are like Arturo Herrera, looking through garage sales and stuff for coloring books. Except he has to spend money to get all that stuff. And then he has to spend a lot of effort cutting them out with X-Acto knives. We're just going to collect them as digital files, and then we're going to be able to cut them out digitally. So, to get it started, I'm going to open a new tab, and I want a Google search window here. And I'm going to type in that cartoon property. You don't want it to be too specific because you want it to be able to find a lot. So my son is really into Garfield right now. I loved Garfield when I was young, so I'm going to do Garfield. It's been around a long time. And now I'm going to do an image search. We do a lot of Google image searches. Now, just because we did a Google image search, it doesn't mean that we can claim the copyright to any of these, or they're somehow fair use to us. So what it does is show us anywhere that those images appear online, probably in order of frequency, right? The reason we do a Google image search is we want to say more for our search options, tools. I keep messing with this. We want to have tools for our image search, and we want to limit it to different sizes because we want a size that's large enough for us to print and use as our own work, which is not a web size. We want a size that's actually larger than 8 megapixels, which is beyond even the large category here. So larger than 8 megapixels. That will filter our results into images of appropriate size. Okay, then I don't want colored three-dimensional photographic images. So I might limit it by type, and I might say only line drawing. And this is a way to be much more effective. Now, can I tell it, ignore Snoopy? No, I can't tell it that. Because these are probably appearing on pages where Garfield also appears. But you can do a lot to kind of sift through it so that every image you're looking at is a likely candidate. So now, I want to choose 5 different references that are each different that I can combine together. And the best ones are going to be ones like these that don't get cut off, are fully self-contained, like stickers. So I'm going to right-click and open them each in a new tab because I want the full-size image. So I have 4 there. We're getting into less and less Garfield-ish stuff. Here we go. Now you might want to open more than 5 because we have to check the quality of each one. So I see nice Winnie the Pooh stuff. I see My Little Pony. And I might need to change my search terms. Like I might need to look up something specific. Or maybe combine him with Heathcliff. And it will keep all of these. So larger than 8 megapixels line drawing, just Heathcliff isn't as popular as he once was. Didn't make it into the digital age. Or I spelled it wrong. Let's see. What's another cat? Let's do Hobbes from Calvin and Hobbes. Now I would use this one, except it's cut off. This one's cut off. So when we're using other people's pixels, as I like to say, we need to do a lot of due diligence in our research and finding really worthwhile images. I kind of like this one. It's just random enough. The reason to pick one cartoon property is that you'll get similar line work. Okay. But here I have some backups in case I need them. Okay, so I've opened them all up in a new tab. Now I'm going to go through those tabs. This is very important because they might be huge. So this is 2,480 pixels by 3,508 pixels. And Digital 2 is doing an exercise of a pixel self-portrait where they have to deal with this kind of stuff. The problem is it looks really blurry. So it might be that many pixels, but it might not be a high-quality image. So what I want to do is look at it here and see if it's actually a good enough quality image. And if I'm unsure, I can say View Image, and it should make it full size. And then, yeah, when I see it full size, it's extremely clean. So this is one I can use. This was actually someone's Illustrator project. I can tell from the little tags on it. So then I can drag and drop that off to the desktop. I usually go off to the left side here. Then I can close it. So that's one potential. View Image. Sometimes when the image is so big, you have to say View Image because the preview will always be a little blurry just because the image is so large. So this one looks good. Let's do that. Now, because they're online images, though, they have to be in online format. So these are both JPEGs. They can be JPEGs, PNGs, or GIFs. Now, this one's nice because it gives me similar images, but they might not be large enough. So we're trying to get 8 megapixels or larger. This one looks good. Drag and drop. The most amateurish mistake we want to avoid is you do not drag the image from this search window. Even if it's a large search, if I drag and drop this image, it will only be as big as the thumbnail. So when I want it really big, it will be terrible quality. So you always open in a new tab and take the image directly from either from here or through the view image if you're doing a double check. Very nice. So basically, if something's good enough to print, it's about 4 times bigger than the screen. You see how when I zoom in at full scale, I just use the magnifying glass on the web browser, it would take about 4 screens to give me the whole image. That means it's a large enough size to print on just an 8x10 page. So 8 megapixels is basically the minimum for an 8x10 image. And I'm looking for 5. So this one, I'm glad I looked at it. Even though it's lots of pixels, is this good quality? No, this is terrible. So that's why I have backups. This one is enormous, but very clean. It's bigger than I need. This would probably take like 20 screens to show all of it. But it's always better to have too big than too small when you're compositing. I don't need this one. So once you have 5 references, we can move on to the next step. Now, about file organization. I have my folder. Spring 17, Carl Digital Art 1. Now I'm going to open up that folder, and I'm going to start making subfolders. So the first subfolder will be exercises. And then I can bring all of these into it. And then I can separate out my exercises into self-portrait, little things we did the first day of class, into the basic shapes. You can number them if you want. You are in charge of organizing your own folder. But this one is going to be under exercises, and I will call this cartoon jumble. And because this one's actually worth points, worth 2 exercise points, pass, fail, I'm going to mark it with a green dot. Then I'm going to take all my references, and if I were done for the day, I would move them all into that folder. So I'll minimize that folder for now with the minus, because that's where everything will go at the end of the day. Okay, I'm going to pause there, come around. All right, now that I have all my references, I know they're all good. I'm in Photoshop, I'm in the Essentials view, and I'm just going to say File, New, and I want the document type to be US paper, so it's 8.5 by 11. Its size is letter size. Its default resolution is 300. Its mode is RGB color. All right, that will work just fine for what we're doing. That gives me a background white piece of paper. Now on top of that, I'm going to drag and drop, in no particular order, my references, one at a time. And I'm doing them one at a time so that I can place them and size them. So I like Odie here, but maybe I want him a little bit bigger. Maybe I want him turned a little bit. So I'm going to use the corners and kind of click. So if I click on the corner and drag, it will change his size. And if I don't hold down Shift, I'll be able to distort him, which you're allowed to do, but you just don't want to change the line quality that much. So I might make him a little bit more squat. And if you hold down Shift, his proportions will lock to what they were originally. So if you're worried about distorting them, you can always hold Shift and it will undistort. And if you want it to grow from the center instead of from the corner, you can also hold down Option and it will grow from the middle. Okay, to get to that, you hit Command T to get what's called a transform box. I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. And you notice that this stuff will have to be deleted, but I'm not going to worry about it yet. And it's its own layer on top of my background. Now I'll bring in the next one. Same thing. Actually, I don't even need to hit Command T because as soon as you bring in something from the desktop, it treats it as what's called a smart layer. and the first thing you have to do is place it.